Hello my beautiful friends and welcome back to our channel and today's video on clean motivation. So I remember back when I was it must have been year 11 or 12 because I was living at home, I was walking around my house and I was listening to this podcast by Tim Ferriss, or perhaps an interview. And he was talking about his hypothesis. We could only be motivated by fear, by some kind of inadequacy that we wanted to feel, by some not good enoughness, by some scarcity, that's what drove us forwards. And I remember this idea, this hypothesis bothered me. And it bothered me for many years after that. My instant gut reaction was that, it can't be true. I just don't believe that. I don't want to believe that. There perhaps was a bit of defensiveness at the time because I was a highly ambitious person. I had goals and plans and I was very determined to achieve them, and to have somebody suggest that that was all from a place of inadequacy is understandably something that would make me defensive. So I didn't exactly trust my initial opinion. I was obviously very biased, perhaps a bit offended by the concept. All I wanted to do at that time was to get into med school and become a doctor, and I had these ideas that I wanted to become a doctor because I wanted to contribute, because it was a worthy career that would mean I was doing something good in the world. So I was very biased at the time, and I'm sure I was not willing to accept this idea that I was driven by scarcity or inadequacy. Now, I'm happy to say that in my personal experience and my experience with my beautiful, amazing clients coaching, that there is an alternative hypothesis that I have full conviction in. I see that there are two types of motivation. There is this motivation over here that Tim Ferriss is talking about that comes from this inadequacy, this wanting to become good enough, this wanting to be worthy, this wanting to be loved and belong and accepted, some kind of scarcity. And then on the other hand, what I see is there is a motivation that is positive. There is a motivation that is focused on. There is a motivation that comes from a desire to create something, to give some value in the world, to create some value for yourself, for others, for the close circle around you, for the world at large. There is a desire there. And in fact, a motivation is just a desire to do something. And yes, we can have a desire, a motivation to avoid something over here, but we can also have a motivation to gain something. It's the motivational triad, right? We've got a motivation to avoid pain, to move towards pleasure, and to avoid change or conserve energy. Now, it really matters what type of motivation you're using, because on both sides, both of these motivations are going to create this high arousal state in your body in the immediate time that you're feeling that motivation, whether it's driven by fear and inadequacy or whether it's driven by some positive desire, adding value. Motivation, either way, a desire to gain something or to avoid something, is going to create that high arousal state in your body. We can look at emotions as having two aspects. They can have a pleasant or unpleasant aspect, a valence, and they can have an arousal state, high or low arousal level. Arousal is sort of the amount of energy that it creates in your body, and motivation, either way, on either side, is creating that energy, and therefore it drives behaviors. So people who feel that motivation have that high arousal level in their body, and it makes them do things in general. Motivation creates this urgency, this energy to do something. But here is the key difference that I want to bring your attention to. When a motivation comes from fear, when you're motivated to avoid something, when you're motivated because you're afraid of something, when you're motivated because you feel there's a threat if you don't achieve whatever you're focused on, this motivation is going to cause a stress response in your body. Physiologically, we're creating different hormones, different levels of muscle tones. There's changes in your eyes. We are physically having a response to that stress that is created. Now, this kind of motivation is costly. When we trigger this stress response in our bodies over and over and over again, because goals take time, right? When we do this over and over and over again, and we spend all of this energy and we have all of these physiological reactions and we reinforce this cynicism in our mind, this is what creates this burnout state. And worse, over time, these can even evolve into more serious mental health issues. Sure, whichever motivation you use, you will create some short-term results because you've got that energy that comes from the motivation. But the cost over here is stress. Now, if we look over to the clean motivation, When we create this arousal level in our body that doesn't come with fear, that doesn't activate our stress response, the costs of this motivation are so much lower. The benefit of this motivation is the same, if not better, I would argue, of focusing on these desires to gain something, to give something from doing the thing. This means that the cost is lower and the gain is the same or higher. This is a sustainable way to move yourself forwards and progress towards your goal. Now, unfortunately, we spend a lot of time thinking about the bad things and worrying and ruminating and being stressed. We naturally, because we've evolved to survive, pay a lot of attention to the things that we want to avoid. We pay very little attention, on the other hand, to the things that we want to gain, to the goodness that we're creating, to the value that we're adding, to why we value this goal. And I want to offer that if you spend some time creating motivation from this clean space, use this clean fuel, your vehicle will go further, last for longer, and be in better nick at the end. If you choose to use this clean fuel instead of this dirty fuel, over time, you'll be able to keep moving forwards, progressing and accumulating your skills, your achievements. You will be evolving yourself as a person. Whereas if you keep choosing this dirty fuel over time, at some point you will deteriorate. You're going to have to stop and service and fix the vehicle multiple more times along the way, and that's going to slow you down ultimately. So while it might be easier in the short term to be motivated by fear, in the long term, choosing this clean fuel is going to get you exponentially better results. And let's be honest, the short term stuff isn't usually what matters. It's the cumulative stuff that usually creates the real changes in our lives. So my beautiful friends, if you feel like you do not know how to create this type of clean motivation, if you don't know how to replenish this fuel in your life, then you need to come along coaching with me and I will show you how. Once you learn this skill, once you learn to direct your mind in this way and also learn to decommission, stop choosing this fuel, stop reaching for this fuel, you'll be able to take this skill away and keep applying it again and again and again and again, and exponentially get the results that you want. We're all capable of doing this, and we've just forgotten. We haven't been diligent in directing our minds to do the work. And the good news is that once you start doing the work, once you remind yourself, your brain, of this natural ability, you will continue to do it because you will get the rewards from it. And if this doesn't even seem possible to you, if you want to believe this but you just can't, jump on a free consult call with me. We'll sit down for an hour on a video call and we will crack open your mind and see what's going on in there and what we can do with you. Love you guys so much, and I'll see you in my next one.